Looks like we are live. Close the door. Close the door. All right. Bet. June 4th, 2025. We're continuing the series, or we're continuing the challenge, the Old Testament reading challenge, 1 month Old Testament reading challenge. So, guys, today we are on day 17. Let's get into it, guys. So we finished First Chronicles yesterday, and I told y'all yesterday how First Chronicles is such a tough book. Like, if y'all want to be tortured, if you guys want torture, go read First Chronicles. Like, for real, for real. That book was so tough. It only took me 2 days, but the first day I started reading First Chronicles, I was just struggling. The second day, I was struggling. There's just a bunch of reading, guys. It's super dense. A bunch of things that you don't want to read about. But finally, we finished the book of First Chronicles, and now we're on Second Chronicles. And guys, Second Chronicles is not too bad, actually. It's not too bad. Rephrasing some of David's things, like the things that David did in Kings. It's kind of rephrasing it, so it's not too crazy here. But yeah, again, go read First Chronicles if you guys want to feel that tortureness. If you want to have a tough reading, go read First Chronicles. That will help you with that reading. But so, guys, since my stream on my computer has not been very efficient, I'm just gonna start reading just through my Bible here. Just through my Bible here, because I don't want my stream to just freeze up on me, and then I have to restart or do part 1, part 2, and part 3. Like, I'm done with that. I just want to do one video for each day, one video. Just if it takes 4 hours, it takes 4 hours. If it takes an hour, it takes an hour. But I hate splitting it up, and then it just gets confusing. So we're just gonna read through our Bible here, which actually might be better too, because then I'm not staring at the screen for freaking 3 hours. It might actually be better for my eyes, because it does kind of it gets kind of old just staring at the screen and just reading. So at least I get to stare at pages and yeah, I get to stare at some pages here, which is kind of cool. So today's reading, Wednesday. Today's Wednesday, June 4th, 2025. And today's reading, we got Second Chronicles. We're actually going to finish Second Chronicles today. Even though my reading plan says Second Chronicles 9 to 35, I'm just going to read that extra chapter and finish it today. And then tomorrow we got some different books. We got different books tomorrow. Finally, man, finally. First Kings was cool. Second Kings was cool. First Chronicles was bad. Second Chronicles is looking a little more promising. But like, finally, we're going to be getting new books. Maybe books that are talking not maybe so much about the kings and what they did and how they were evil, how they were good, and how God used them, and how the kingdoms were split, and how Judah and Israel were, how they correlated with each other, and when what happened. Finally, we might be done with that. So we're gonna get new books tomorrow. Make sure you guys don't miss tomorrow. I'm not gonna say what books we're gonna jump into, but you guys, it's gonna be a surprise. Y'all have to watch tomorrow. You have to pull up. But yeah, we're gonna finish Second Chronicles today. Absolutely great. It's a good reading. 9 to 36. What's that? About 26 chapters. It's gonna be a good read. It's gonna be a grind today. It's truly gonna be a grind today. But it might not be as crazy as First Chronicles. So yeah, so let's get into this. Let me reposition my thing so that. Whoa. Whoa. What's happening? All right. Bet. Okay. So I think y'all can see me. Here's my Bible here. My computer's right here. We're not going to be using that, right? So, Second Chronicles chapter 9. So we stopped at chapter 9, right? Yesterday we stopped at chapter 9 of Second Chronicles. Let's get into it. So it's 11:51 right now. Okay. All right, so chapter 9 of Second Chronicles. Let's get into it. Now, when the queen of Sheba heard of the fame of Solomon, she came to Jerusalem to test him with hard questions, having a very great retinue, and camels, bearing spices that were very gold and precious stones. And when she came to Solomon, she told him all that was on her mind. And Solomon answered all her questions. There was nothing hidden from Solomon that she could there was nothing hidden from Solomon that he could not explain to her. And when the queen of Sheba had seen the wisdom of Solomon, the house that he had built, the food of his table, the seating of his officials, and the attendance of his servants, and their clothing, his cupbearers, their clothing, his burnt offerings that he burned, no, his burnt offerings that he offered at the house of the Lord, there was no more breath in her. And she said to the king, the report was true that I've heard in my own land of your words and of your wisdom. But I did not believe the reports until I came and my own eyes have seen it. And behold, half the greatness of your wisdom was not told me. You suppress the report that I heard. Happy are your wives, happy are these your servants who continually stand before you and hear your wisdom. Blessed be the Lord the God who has delighted in you and set you on this throne as king for the Lord your God, because your God loved Israel and would establish them forever. He has made you king over them that you may execute justice and righteousness. Then she gave the king 120 talents of gold and very great quantities of spices and precious stones. There were no spices such as those that the queen of Sheba gave to King Solomon. Moreover, the servants of Hiram and the servants of Solomon, who brought gold from Hepher, brought a algum wood and precious stones, and the king made from the algum wood supports from the house of the Lord, for the house of the Lord, and for the king's house lyres. Lyres also in the harps for the singers. There never was seen the like of them before in the land of Judah. And King Solomon gave to the queen of Sheba all that she desired, whatever she asked, beside what she had brought to the king. So she turned and went back to her own land with her servants. Now the weight of gold that came to Solomon in 1 year was 666 total. In 1 year was 666 talents of gold, beside that which the explorers and the merchants brought. And all the kings of Arabia and the governors of the land brought gold and silver to Solomon. King Solomon made 200 large shields of beaten gold. 600 shekels of beaten gold went into each shield. And he made 300 shekels of beaten gold. 300 shekels of gold went into each shield. And the king put them in the house of the forest of Lebanon. The king also made a great ivory throne, overlaid it with pure gold. The throne had 6 steps and a footstool of gold, which were attached to the throne. And on each side seat were armrest, and 2 lions standing beside the armrest, while 12 lions stood there, one on each end of a step on the 6 steps. Nothing like it was ever made for any kingdom. All King Solomon's drinking vessels were of gold, and all the vessels of the house of the forest of Lebanon were of pure gold. Silver was not considered as anything in the days of Solomon, for the king's ships went to Tarshish with the servants of Hiram. One every 3 years the ships of Tarshish used to come, bringing gold, silver, ivory, apes, and peacocks. Thus King Solomon excelled all the kings of the earth in riches and in wisdom, and all the kings of the earth sought the presence of Solomon to hear his wisdom, which God had put into his mind. Every one of them brought his presents, articles of silver, of gold, garments, myrrh, spices, horses, meals, so much year by year. And Solomon had 44,000 stalls of horses and chariots, 12,000 horsemen, whom he stationed in the chariot cities, and with the king in Jerusalem. And he ruled over all the kings from the Euphrates to the land of the Philistines and to the border of Egypt. And the king made silver as common in Jerusalem as stone, and he made cedar as plentiful as the sycamore of Shephelah. And the horses were imported for Solomon from Egypt and from all lands. So Solomon is rich. He has everything here. Everyone loves him. Everyone is trying to give him more too. Now the rest of the acts of Solomon, from first to last, are they not written in the history of Nathan the prophet, and in the prophecy of Ahijah and the Shilonite, and in the visions of Iddo the seer concerning Jeroboam the son of Nebat? Solomon reigned in Jerusalem over all Israel 40 years, and Solomon slept with his fathers and was buried in the city of David his father, and Rehoboam his son reigned in his place. Rehoboam went to Shechem, chapter 10. Rehoboam went to Shechem, for all Israel had come to Shechem to make him king. And as soon as Jeroboam the son of Nebat heard of it, for he was in Egypt, where he had fled from King Solomon, then Jeroboam returned from Egypt, and they sent and called him. And Jeroboam and all Israel came and said to Rehoboam, your father made our yoke heavy. Now therefore lighten the hard service of your father and his heavy yoke on us, and we will serve you. He said to them, come to me again in 3 days. So the people went away. Then King Rehoboam took counsel with the old men who had stood before Solomon his father while he was yet alive, and said, how do you advise me to answer this people? And they said to him, if you will be good to this people and please them and speak good words to them, then they will be your servants forever. But he abandoned the counsel that the old men gave him and took counsel with the young men who had grown up with him and stood before him. And he said to them, what do you advise that we answer this people? Who said to me, lighten the yoke that your father put on us. And the young men who had grown up with him said to him, thus shall you speak to the people who said to you, your father made our yoke heavy, but you lighten it for us. Thus shall you say them, my little finger is thicker than my father's thighs. And now, whereas my father laid on you a heavy yoke, I will add to your yoke. My father disciplined you with whips, but I will discipline you with scorpions. Guys, so this is like, we've already read this in Kings. I promise y'all, we've already read this in Kings. But it seems like Chronicles is like retelling the same story, the same instances, the same events that Kings in First and Second Kings. And it's and I never knew that until I'm reading this. Basically, Second Chronicles is almost Kings because it's talking about how the kings ruled, who was good, and it talks specifically about Solomon and how he built a temple. And because I already read all of this, guys. Everything I've already read, like right here, like chapter 10 here, I've already read in Kings. I'm not sure which chapter in Kings, but I read it. I need to go and do some research and figure out like what chapter mimics what chapter in First and Second Kings, right? Let's get back into this. But I will discipline you with scorpions. Verse 12. So Jeroboam and all the people came to Rehoboam the third day, as the king said, come to me again the third day. And the king answered them harshly, and forsaking the counsel of the old men, King Rehoboam spoke to them according to the counsel of the young men, saying, my father made your yoke heavy, but I will add to it. My father disciplined you with whips, but I will discipline you with scorpions. So the king did not listen to the people, for he was turned of affairs brought about by God, that the Lord might fulfill his word, which he spoke to Ahijah the Shilonite, to Jeroboam the son of Nebat. And when all Israel saw that the king did not listen to them, the people answered the king, what portion have we in David? We have no inheritance in the son of Jesse. Each of you to your tents, O Israel. Look now to your own house, David. So all Israel went to the tents, but Rehoboam reigned over the people of Israel who lived in the cities of Judah. Then King Rehoboam sent Hadarim, who was a taskmaster over the forced labor, and the people of Israel stoned him to death with stones. I wonder why. And King Rehoboam quickly mounted his chariot to flee to Jerusalem. So Israel has been in rebellion against the house of David to this day. Chapter 11. When Rehoboam came to Jerusalem, he assembled the house of Judah and Benjamin, 180,000 chosen warriors, to fight against Israel to restore the kingdom to Rehoboam. But the word of the Lord came to Shemaiah, the man of God, say to Rehoboam the son of Solomon, king of Judah, and to all Israel and Judah and Benjamin, thus says the Lord, you shall not go up or fight against your relatives. Return every man to his home, for this thing is from me. So they listened to the word of the Lord and returned and did not go against Jeroboam. Rehoboam lived in Jerusalem, and he built cities for defense in Judah. He built Bethlehem, Etah, Tokah, Beth Zur, Soko, Adullam, Gah, Marishah, Zippah, Adorium, Lashish, Azkah, Zorah, Ajalon, Hebron. Fortified cities that are in Judah and in Benjamin. He made the fortresses strong and put commanders in them, and stores of food, oil, and wine. And he put shields and spears in all the cities and made them very strong. So he held Judah and Benjamin. And the priests and the Levites who were in all Israel presented themselves to him from all places where they lived. For the Levites left their common lands and their holdings and came to Judah and Jerusalem, because Jeroboam and his sons cast them out from serving as priests of the Lord. And he appointed his own priests for the high places, for the goat idols, for the calves that he had made. And those who had set their hearts to seek the Lord God of Israel came after them from all tribes of Israel to Jerusalem to sacrifice to the Lord, the God of their fathers. They strengthened the kingdom of Judah, and for 3 years they made Rehoboam the son of Solomon secure, for they walked for 3 years in the way of David and Solomon. Rehoboam took as wife Mahalalah, the daughter of Jeremoth, the son of David, and Abihail, the daughter of Eliab, the son of Jesse. And she bore him sons, Jeush, Shemariah, Zaham. After he took Maacah, the daughter of Absalom, who bore him Abijah, Atai, Ziza, Shelomith. Rehoboam loved Maacah, the daughter of Absalom, above all his wives and concubines. He took 18 wives and 60 concubines and fathered 28 sons and 60 daughters. And Rehoboam appointed Abijah the son of Maacah as chief priest among his brothers, for he intended to make him king. And he dealt wisely and distributed some of his sons through all the districts of Judah and Benjamin. In all the fortified cities he gave them abundant provisions and procured wives for them. When the rule of Rehoboam was established, he was strong. He abandoned the law of the Lord, and all Israel with him, in the 50th year of King Rehoboam, because they had been unfaithful to the Lord. Shishak, king of Egypt, came up against Jerusalem with 1,200 chariots and 60,000 horsemen. And the people were without number who came with him from Egypt, Libyans, Sukkim, Ethiopians. And he took the fortified cities of Judah and came as far as Jerusalem. Then Shemaiah the prophet came to Rehoboam and to the prince of Judah, who had gathered at Jerusalem because of the Shishak, and said to them, Thus says the Lord, you abandoned me, so I have abandoned you to the hand of Shishak. Then the prince of Israel and the king humbled themselves and said, The Lord is righteous. When the Lord saw that they humbled themselves, the word of the Lord came to Shemaiah. They have humbled themselves. I will not destroy them, but I will grant them some deliverance, and my wrath shall not be poured out on Jerusalem by the hand of Shishak. Nevertheless, they shall be servants to him, that they may know my service and the service of the kingdoms of the countries. So Shishak, king of Egypt, came up against Jerusalem. He took away the treasures of the house of the Lord and the treasuries of the king's house. He took away everything. He also took away the shields of gold that Solomon had made. King Rehoboam made in their place shields of bronze and committed them to the hands of the officers of the guard, who kept the doors of the king's house. And as often as the king went into the house of the Lord, the guard came and carried them and brought them back into the guard room. And when he humbled himself, the wrath of the Lord turned from him, so as not to make a complete destruction. Moreover, conditions were good in Judah. So King Rehoboam grew strong in Jerusalem and reigned. Rehoboam was 41 years old when he began to reign. He reigned 17 years in Jerusalem, the city that the Lord had chosen out of all the tribes of Israel to put his name there. His mother's name was Naamah the Ammonite, and he did evil, for he did not set his heart to seek the Lord. Now the acts of Rehoboam, from first to last, are they not written in the Chronicles of Shemaiah the prophet and of Iddo the seer? There were continual wars between Rehoboam and Jeroboam, and Rehoboam slept with his fathers and was buried in the city of David, and Abijah his son reigned in his place. So it seems like there are more books here. It says are they not written in the are they not written in the Chronicles of Shemaiah?
That's interesting.
All right, chapter 13, 2 King. Let's plow through this. In the 18th year of King Jeroboam, Abijah began to reign over Judah. He reigned for 3 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Micaiah, the daughter of Uriel of Gibeah. Now there was war between Abijah and Jeroboam, and Abijah went out to battle, having an army of violent men of war, 400,000 chosen men. And Jeroboam grew up his line battle against him with 800,000. So there's a 1 to 2. This is a 1 to 2 here. And Abijah stood up on Mount Zamaram, that is in the hill country of Ephraim, and said, Hear me, O Jeroboam and all Israel. Ought you not know that the Lord God of Israel gave the kingships over Israel forever to David and his sons by a covenant of salt? Yet Jeroboam the son of Nebat, a servant of Solomon, the son of David, rose up and rebelled against his Lord. And certain worthless scoundrels gathered about him and defiled Rehoboam the son of Solomon. When Rehoboam was young and irresolute and could not withstand them, and now you think to withstand the kingdom of the Lord in the hand of the sons of David, because you are a great multitude and have with you the golden calves that Jeroboam made you for gods? Have you not driven out the priests of the Lord, the sons of Aaron and the Levites, and made priests for yourselves like the people of other lands? Whoever comes for ordination with a young bull or 7 rams becomes a priest of what are not gods. But as far as the Lord is our God, and we have not forsaken him, we are priests ministering to the Lord, who are sons of Aaron and Levites for their service. They offer to the Lord every morning and every evening burnt offerings and incense of sweet spices. Set out the showbread on the table of pure gold, and care for the golden lampstands that its lamps may burn every evening. For we keep the charge of the Lord our God, but you have forsaken him. Behold, God is with us at our head, and his priest wait and his priests with their battered trumpets to sound the call to battle against you. O sons of Israel, do not fight against the Lord, the God of your fathers, for you cannot succeed. Jeroboam had sent an ambush around to come upon them from behind. Thus his troops were in front of Judah, and the ambush was behind them. And when Judah looked, behold, the battle was in front of and behind them, and they cried to the Lord, and the priests blew the trumpets. Then the men of Judah raised the battle shout, and when the men of Judah shouted, God defeated Jeroboam and all Israel before Abijah and Judah. The men of Israel fled before Judah, and God gave them into their hands. Abijah and his men struck them with great force, so there fell slain of Israel 500,000. Holy moly. 500,000 men. Thus the men of Israel were subdued at that time, and the men of Judah prevailed, because they relied on the Lord, the God of their fathers. And Abijah pursued Jeroboam and took cities from him, Bethel with its villages, Jeshanah with its villages, Ephraim with its villages. Jeroboam did not recover his power in the days of Abijah, and the Lord struck him down, and he died. But Abijah grew mighty, and he took 14 wives, and had 22 sons and 16 daughters. The rest of the acts of Abijah, his ways and his sayings, are written in the story of the prophet Iddo. Abijah slept with his fathers, and they buried him in the city of David. And Asa his son reigned in his place. In his days the land had rest for 10 years. And Asa did what was good and right in the eyes of the Lord his God. He took away the foreign altars, the high places, and broke down the pillars, and cut down the Asherim, and commanded Judah to seek the Lord, the God of their fathers, and to keep the law and the commandment. He also took out of all the cities of Judah the high places and the incense altars, and the kingdom had rest under him. He built fortified cities in Judah, for the land had rest. He had no war in those years, for the Lord gave it peace. And he said to Judah, let us build these cities and surround them with walls and towers, gates and bars. The land is still ours, because we sought the Lord our God. We have sought him. He has given us peace on every side. So they built and prospered. And Asa had an army of 300,000 from Judah, armed with large shields and spears, and 280,000 men from Benjamin that carried shields and drew bows. All these were mighty men of valor. Zora the Ethiopian came out against them with an army of 1,000,000 men and 300 chariots, and it came as far as Mareshah. And Asa went out to meet him, and they drew up their lines of battle in the valley of Zephathah at Mareshah. And Asa cried to the Lord his God, O Lord, there is none like you to help. Between the mighty and the weak, help us, O Lord our God, for we rely on you, and in your name we have come against this multitude. O Lord, you are God, let not man prevail against you. So the Lord defeated the Ethiopians before Asa and before Judah, and the Ethiopians fled. Asa and the people who were with him pursued them as far as Gerger, and the Ethiopians fell until none remained alive, for they were broken before the Lord and his army. The men of Judah carried away very much spoil, and they attacked all the cities around Gerger, for the fear of the Lord was upon them. They plundered all the cities, for there was much plunder in them. And they struck down the tents of those who had livestock, and carried away sheep in abundance and camels. Then they returned to Jerusalem. So don't fight against God. You're not going to win. Period. The Spirit of God came upon Azariah, the son of Obed, and went out to meet Asa and said to him, hear me, Asa, and all Judah and Benjamin. The Lord is with you while you are with him. If you seek him, he will be found by you. But if you forsake him, he will forsake you. For a long time, Israel was without the true God, and without a teaching priest, and without law. But when in their distress they turned to the Lord, the God of Israel, and sought him, he was found by them. In those times there was no peace to him who went out to him, who came in. For great disturbance afflicted all the inhabitants of the land. They were broken in pieces. Nations was crushed by nations, city by city, for God troubled them with every sort of distress. But you take courage. Do not let your hand be weak, for your work shall be rewarded. As soon as Asa heard these words, the prophecy Azariah, the son of Obed, the son of Oda, he took courage and put away the detestable idols from all the land of Judah and Benjamin, from the cities that he had taken in the hill country of Ephraim. He repelled the altars of the Lord that was in front of the vestibule of the house of the Lord. And he gathered all Judah and Benjamin, and those from Ephraim, Manasseh, and Simeon, who were residing with them, for great multitudes or great numbers had deserted him from Israel when they saw that the Lord his God was with him. They were gathered at Jerusalem in the 3rd month of the 15th year of the reign of Asa. They sacrificed to the Lord on that day from the spoil that they had brought 700 oxen and 7,000 sheep. And they entered into the covenant to seek the Lord, the God of their fathers, with all their heart, with all their soul. But that whoever would not seek the Lord, the God of Israel, should be put to death, whether young or old, man or woman. They swore an oath to the Lord with a loud voice, and with shouting, and with trumpets, and with horns. And all Israel rejoiced over the oath, for they had sworn with all their heart, and had sought him with their whole desire, and he was found by them. And the Lord gave them rest all around. Even Maacah, his mother, King Asa, removed from being queen mother, because she had made a detestable image for Asherah. Asa cut down her image, crushed it, burned it at the brook Kidron. But the high places were not taken out of Israel. Nevertheless, the heart of Asa was wholly true all his days, and he brought into the house of God the sacred gifts of his father, his own sacred gifts, silver and gold vessels. And there was no more war until the 35th year of the reign of Asa. So, there's a lot here that in mimicking from Kings, 1st Kings, 2nd Kings, as I told y'all. So everything I'm basically reading the same reoccurring events. In the 36th year of the reign of Asa, Baasha, king of Israel, went up against Judah and built Ramah, that he might permit no one to go out or come in. To Asa, king of Judah. Then Asa took silver and gold from the treasuries of the house of the Lord and the king's house, and sent them to Ben-Hadad, king of Syria, who lived in Damascus, saying, there is a covenant between me and you, as there was between my father and your father. Behold, I am sending to you silver and gold. Go break your covenant with Baasha, king of Israel, that he may withdraw from me. And Ben-Hadad listened to King Asa, and sent the commanders of his army against the cities of Israel, and they conquered Ijon, Dan, Abel, Man, and all the stores, cities of Naphtali. And when Baasha heard of it, he stopped building Ramah, and let his work cease. Then King Asa took all Judah, and they carried away the stones of Ramah and its timbers with which Baasha had been building, and with them he built Geba and Mizpah. At that time, Hanani the seer came to Asa, king of Judah, and said to him, because you relied on the king of... I already read this, bro. Oh, yeah. I already read this because... So yesterday, guys, at the beginning of yesterday's part one of video, I was reading something... different, right? And... I was reading something different. I was supposed to read 1st Chronicles, but instead I accidentally was reading 2nd Chronicles. So I read 5 chapters into 2nd Chronicles. I went from 19 to, I think it was 14 to 19. So I read a good 5 chapters. And then I was like, wait, this is 2nd Chronicles. I was supposed to be reading 1st Chronicles. So like everything I'm reading here, I already read yesterday, but hey, it's a new day. It's a different day. But this is why it's like, oh, I've already read this. It's because I read it yesterday on accident. Verse 7. At that time, Hanani the seer came to Asa, king of Judah, and said to him, because you relied on the king of Syria, and did not rely on the Lord your God, the army of the king of Syria has escaped. You were not the Ethiopians and the Libyans. Were not the Ethiopians and the Libyans a huge army with very many chariots and horsemen? Yet because you relied on the Lord, he gave them into your hand. For the eyes of the Lord run to and fro throughout the whole earth, to give strong support to those whose heart is blameless toward him. You have done foolishly in this. For from now on you will have wars. Then Asa was angry at this seer, and put him in the stocks in prison, for he was enraged with them because of this. And Asa inflicted cruelties upon some of the people at the same time. The acts of Asa from first to last are written in the book of the kings of Judah and Israel in the 39th year of his reign. And Asa was diseased in his feet, and his disease became severe. Yet even in his disease he did not seek the Lord, but sought help from physicians. And Asa slept with his fathers, dying in the 41st year of his reign. They buried him in the tomb that he had cut for himself in the city of David. They laid him on a bier that had been filled with various kinds of spices prepared by the perfumer's art, and they made a very great fire in his honor. Jehoshaphat, his son, reigned in his place and strengthened himself against Israel. He placed forces in all the fortified cities of Judah, and set garrisons in the land of Judah and in the cities of Ephraim that Asa his father had captured. The Lord was with Jehoshaphat because he walked in the earlier ways of his father David. He did not seek the Baals, but sought the God of father, and walked in his commandments, and not according to the practices of Israel. Therefore the Lord established the kingdom in his hand, and all Judah brought tribute to Jehoshaphat. He had great riches and honors. His heart was courageous in the ways of the Lord. And furthermore, he took the high places in the Ashram out of Judah. In the 3rd year of his reign, he sent out officials, Ben-Hail, Obadiah, Zechariah, Nathaniel, Micaiah, to teach in the cities of Judah, and with them the Levites, Shemaiah, Nathaniah, Zebediah, Asahel, Shemirathmoth, Jehoathan, and Adonijah, Tobijah, and Tobadijah, and with these Levites, the priests Elishama and Jehoram. And they were taught in Judah, having the books of the law of God with them, and they went about through all the cities of Judah and taught among the people. And the fear of the Lord fell upon all the kingdoms of the land that were around Judah, and they made no war against Jehoshaphat. Some of the Philistines brought Jehoshaphat presents and silver for tribute, and the Arabians also brought him 7,700 rams, 7,700 goats, and Jehoshaphat grew steadily greater. He built in Judah fortresses and strong cities. And he had large supplies in the cities of Judah. He had soldiers, mighty men of valor. Mighty men of valor in Jerusalem. This was the muster of them by fathers' houses of Judah. The commanders of thousands, Adnah, the commander with 300,000 mighty men of valor. And next to him, Jehohanan, the commander with 280,000. And next to him, Amasiah, the son of Zichri, a volunteer for the service of the Lord, with 200,000 mighty men of valor. Of Benjamin, Elidah, a mighty man of valor with 200,000 men armed with bow and shield. And next to him, Jehozabad, with 180,000 armed for war. These were in the service of the king, beside those whom the king had placed in the fortified cities throughout all Judah. Beautiful. Chapter 18. Man, I'm yawning like crazy, y'all. What time is it? It's 12:19. I hope I can finish this around 3. Please, if I can finish this around 3 or even 2, that would be great. It's 12:19 right now. Now Jehoshaphat had great riches and honor, and he made him a marriage alliance with Ahab. After some years, he went down to Ahab in Samaria, and Ahab killed an abundance of sheep and oxen for him, and for the people who were with him, and introduced him to go up against Ramoth Gilead. Ahab, king of Israel, said to Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, "Will you go with me to Ramoth Gilead?" He answered him, "I am as you are, my people as your people. We will be with you in the war." And Jehoshaphat said to the king of Israel, "Inquire first for the word of the Lord." Then the kings of Israel gathered the prophets together, 400 men, and said to them, "Shall we go to battle against Ramoth Gilead, or shall I refrain?" And they said, Go up, for God will give it into the hand of the king." But Jehoshaphat said, "Is there not here another prophet of the Lord of whom we may inquire?" And the king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, "There is yet one man by whom we may inquire of the Lord, Micaiah the son of Imlah. But I hate him, for he never prophesies good concerning me, but always evil." And Jehoshaphat said, "Let not the king say so." Then the king of Israel summoned an officer and said, "Bring quickly Micaiah the son of Imlah." Now the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat the king of Judah were sitting on their thrones, arrayed in their robes, and they were sitting at the threshing floor at the entrance of the gate of Samaria, and all the prophets were prophesying before him. And Zedekiah the son of Shenanah made himself horns of iron, and said, "Thus the Lord, with these you shall push the Syrians until they were destroyed." And all the prophets prophesied so and said, "Go up to Ramoth Gilead and triumph. The Lord will give it into the hand of the king." And the messengers who went to summon Micaiah said to him, "Behold, the words of the prophets with one accord are favor to the king. Let your word be like the word of one of them, and speak favorably." But Micaiah said, "As the Lord lives, what may God say that I will speak?" And when he had come to the king said to him, "Micaiah, shall we go to Ramoth Gilead to battle, or shall I refrain?" And he answered, "Go up to triumph. They will be given into your hand." But the king said to him, "How many times shall I make you swear that you speak to me nothing but the truth in the name of the Lord?" And he said, "I saw all of Israel scattered on the mountain as sheep that have no shepherd." And the Lord said, "These have no master. Let each return to his home in peace. And the king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, Did I not tell you that he would not prophesy good concerning me, but evil? And Micaiah said, Therefore hear the word of the Lord. I saw the Lord sitting on his throne, and all the hosts of heaven standing on his right hand and on his left. And the Lord said, Who will entice Ahab the king of Israel, that he may go up and fall at Ramoth Gilead? And one said, This is very interesting story here. Second Chronicles. I think it's already mentioned in Kings though. Chronicles, what's this, 18? Second Chronicles 18. Verses 18 to something. And I saw the Lord sitting on his throne, and all the hosts of heaven standing on his right hand and on his left. And the Lord said, Who will entice Ahab the king of Israel, that he may go up and fall at Ramoth Gilead? And one said one thing, and another said another. Then a spirit came forward and stood before the Lord, saying, I will entice him. And the Lord said to him, By what means? And he said, I will go out, and I will be a lying spirit in the mouth of all the prophets. And he said, You are to entice him, and you shall succeed. Go out and do so. Now therefore, behold, the Lord has put a lying spirit in the mouth of these your prophets. The Lord has declared disaster concerning you. That's very interesting. Then Zedekiah, son of Shaniah, came near and struck Micaiah on the cheek and said, Which way did the Spirit of the Lord go from me to speak to you? And Micaiah said, Behold, you shall see on that day when you go into the inner chamber to hide yourself. And the king of Israel said, Seize Micaiah and take him back to Ammon, the governor of the city, and to Joash the king's son, and say, Thus says the Lord, put this fellow in prison and feed him with meager rations of bread and water until I return in peace. And Micaiah said, If you return in peace, the Lord has not spoken by me. And he said, Hear all you peoples. So the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, went up to Ramoth Gilead. And the king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, I will disguise myself and go into battle, but you wear your robes. And the king of Israel disguised himself, and they went into battle. Now the king of Syria had commanded the captain of his chariots, Fight with neither small nor great, but only with the king of Israel. As soon as the captains of the chariots saw Jehoshaphat, they said, It is the king of Israel. So they turned to fight against him. And Jehoshaphat cried out. The Lord helped him, and God drew them away from him. For as soon as the captain of the chariots saw that it was not the king of Israel, they turned back from pursuing him. But a certain man drew his bow at random and struck the king of Israel between the scale armor and the breastplate. Therefore he said to the driver of the chariot, Turn around and carry me out of the battle, for I am wounded. And the battle continued that day, and the king of Israel was propped up in his chariot, facing the Syrians until evening. Then at sunset he died. Hey, Micaiah is that true prophet. He prophesied that King Ahab wouldn't make it. The disaster would come upon him. But they sent the dude to jail. They sent him to prison, and they tortured him and gave him nothing but morsels of bread. So Jehoshaphat survives, but King Ahab dies because he got shot by an arrow. Chapter 19. Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, returned in safety to his house in Jerusalem. But Jehu, the son of Hanani, the seer, went out to meet him and said to the king Jehoshaphat, Should you help the wicked and love those who hate the Lord? Because of this, wrath has gone out against you from the Lord. Nevertheless, some good is found in you, for you destroyed the Asheroth out of the land, and have set your heart to seek God. Jehoshaphat lived at Jerusalem, and he went out again among the people from Beersheba to the hill country of Ephraim, and brought them back to the Lord, the God of their fathers. He appointed judges in the land and all the fortified cities of Judah, city by city, and said to the judges, Consider what you do, for you judge not for man, but for the Lord. He is with you He is with you in giving judgment. Now then, let the fear of the Lord be upon you. Be careful what you do, for there is no injustice with the Lord our God, or partiality, or taking bribes. Moreover, in Jerusalem, Jehoshaphat appointed certain Levites and priests and heads of families of Israel to give judgment for the Lord and to decide dispute cases. They had their seats at Jerusalem, and he charged them, Thus you shall do in the fear of the Lord, in faithfulness and with your whole heart. Whenever a case comes to you from your brothers who lived in their cities, concerning bloodshed, law or commandment, statutes or rules, then you shall warn them, that they may not incur guilt before the Lord, and wrath may not come upon you and your brothers. Thus you shall do, and you will not incur guilt. And behold, Amariah the chief priest is over you in all the matters of the land, and Zebediah the son of Ishmael, the governor of the house of Judah, in all king's matter. And the Levites will serve you as officers. Deal courageously, and may the Lord be with you. May the Lord be with you, the upright. All right, so it's up to 200. All right, I gotta go to. Oh my goodness. Okay. Where did I stop at, y'all? I think I stopped at chapter 20. Yeah. After this, the Moabites and the Ammonites, and with them, some of the Meunites came against Jehoshaphat for battle. Some men came and told Jehoshaphat, a great multitude is coming against you from Edom, from beyond the sea, and behold, they are in Hezon, Tamar, and that is Edged and Gedi. Then Jehoshaphat was afraid and set his face to seek the Lord, and proclaimed a fast throughout all Judah. And Judah assembled to seek help from the Lord. From all the cities of Judah they came to seek the Lord. And Jehoshaphat stood in the assembly of Judah and Jerusalem in the house of the Lord before the new court, and said, O Lord, God of our fathers, are you not God in heaven? You rule over all the kingdoms of the nation. In your hand are power and might, so that none is able to withstand you. Did you not, our God, drive out the inhabitants of this land before your people Israel, and give it forever to the descendants of Abraham your friend? And they have lived in it, and have built for you in it a sanctuary for your name, saying, if disaster comes upon us, the sword, judgment, or pestilence, or famine, we will stand before this house and before you. For your name is in this, and cry out to you in affliction, and you will hear and save. Now behold, the men of Ammon and Moabites and the Mount Seir, whom you would not let Israel invade when they came from the land of Egypt, and whom they avoided and did not destroy, behold, they reward us by coming to drive us out of your possession, which you have given us to inherit. O God, would you not execute judgment on them? For we are powerless against this great horde that is coming against us. We do not know what to do, but our eyes are on you. We do not know what to do, but our eyes are on you. I like that. Let me write that down. Second Chronicles. Second Chronicles 2. Meanwhile, all Judah stood before the Lord with their little ones, their wives, and their children, and the Spirit of the Lord came upon Jahaziel, the son of Zechariah, son of Benaiah, son of Jael, son of Mattaniah, a Levite of the son of Asaph, in the midst of the assembly, and said, listen, all Judah, inhabitants of Jerusalem, and King Jehoshaphat. Thus says the Lord to you, do not be afraid and do not be dismayed at this great horde, for the battle is not yours but God's. Tomorrow go down against them. Behold, they will come up by the ascent of Ziz. You shall find them at the end of the valley, east of the wilderness of Jeruel. You will not need to fight in the battle. Stand firm, hold your position, and see the salvation of the Lord on your behalf. O Judah and Jerusalem, do not be afraid, do not be dismayed. Tomorrow go out against them, and the Lord will be with you. Then Jehoshaphat bowed his head with his face to the ground, and all Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem fell down before the Lord, worshiping the Lord. The Levites of the Kohathites, the Kohathites, and the Korathites stood up to praise the Lord, the God of Israel, with a very loud voice. And they rose early in the morning and went out in the wilderness to Toka. And when they went out, Jehoshaphat stood and said, Hear me, Judah, and inhabitants of Jerusalem. Believe in the Lord your God, and you will be established. Believe his prophets, and you will succeed. And when he had taken counsel with the people, he appointed those who were to sing to the Lord and praise him in a holy attire, as they went before the army, and say, Give thanks to the Lord, for his steadfast love endures forever. And when they had begun to sing and praise, the Lord sent an ambush against the men of Ammon, Moabites, and Mount Seir, who had come against Judah, so that they were routed. For the men of Ammon and Moabite rose against the inhabitants of Mount Seir, devoting them to destruction. And when they had made an end of the inhabitants of Seir, they all helped to destroy one another. just a complete chaos. When Judah came to the watchtower of the wilderness, they looked toward the horde, and behold, they were dead. There were dead bodies lying on the ground. None had escaped. When Jehoshaphat and his men came to take their spoil, they found among them in great numbers goods, clothing, precious things, which they took for themselves until they could carry no more. They were 3 days in taking their spoil. It was so much. On the fourth day, they assembled in the valley of Barakah. For there they blessed the Lord. Therefore, the name of that place has been called the valley of Barakah to this day. Then they returned, every man of Judah and Jerusalem, and Jehoshaphat at their head, returning to Jerusalem with joy, for the Lord had made them rejoice over their enemies. They came to Jerusalem with harps, lyres, trumpets, to the house of the Lord, and the fear of the Lord came on all the kingdoms of the countries when they heard that the Lord had fought against the enemies of Israel. So the realm of Jehoshaphat was quiet, for his God gave him rest all around. Thus Jehoshaphat reigned over Judah. He was 35 years old when he began to reign. He reigned 25 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Azubah, the daughter of Shili. He walked in the ways of Asa his father and did not turn aside from it, doing what was right in the sight of the Lord. The high places, however, were not taken away. The people had not yet set their hearts upon the Lord of their fathers. Now the rest of the acts of Jehoshaphat, from the first to last, are written in the Chronicles of Jehu the son of Hanani, which are recorded in the book of the kings of Israel. After this, Jehoshaphat king of Judah joined with Ahaziah king of Israel, who acted wickedly. After this, Jehoshaphat king of Judah joined with Ahaziah king of Israel, who acted wickedly. He joined him in building ships to go to Tarshish, and they built the ships in Geber. Then Eleazar the son of Dobaval of Beersheba prophesied against Jehoshaphat, saying, Because you have joined with Ahaziah, the Lord would destroy what you have made. And the ships were wrecked and were not able to go to Tarshish. Tough. Jehoshaphat slept with his fathers and was buried with his fathers in the city of David. And Jehoram his son reigned in his place. He had brothers, sons of Jehoshaphat, Azariah, Jehiel, Zechariah, Azariah, Michael, and Shephatiah. All these were the sons of Jehoshaphat, king of Israel. Their fathers gave them great gifts of silver, gold, valuable possessions, together with fortified cities in Jerusalem. But he gave the kingdoms to Jehoram because he was the firstborn. When Jehoram had ascended the throne of his father and was established, he killed all his brothers with the sword, and also some of the princes of Israel. Jehoram was 32 years when he became king, and he reigned 8 years in Jerusalem. And he walked in the way of the kings of Israel, as the house of Ahab had done, for the daughter of Ahab was his wife. And he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. Yet the Lord was not willing to destroy the house of David because of the covenant that he had made with David, and since he had promised to give a lamp to him and to his sons forever. In his days, Edom revolted from the rule of Judah and set up a king of their own. When Jehoram passed over with his commanders and all his chariots, and he rose by night and struck the Edomites who had surrounded him, and his chariot commanders. So Edom revolted from the rule of Judah to this day. At that time, Libnah also revolted from his rule, because he had forsaken the Lord, the God of his father. Moreover, he made high places in the hill country of Judah, and led the inhabitants of Jerusalem into whoredom, and made Judah go astray. And a letter came to him from Elijah the prophet, saying, Thus says the Lord, the God of David your father, because you have not walked in the ways of Jehoshaphat your father, or in the ways of Asa king of Judah, but have walked in the ways of the kings of Israel, and have enticed Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem into whoredom, as the house of Ahab led Israel into whoredom. And also you have killed your brothers of your father's houses who were better than you. Behold, the Lord will bring a great plague on your people, your children, your wives, and all your possessions, and you yourself will have a severe sickness with the disease of your bowels, with your bowels, until your bowels come out because of the disease, day by day. And the Lord stirred up against Jehoram the anger of the Philistines and out of the Arabians who were near the Ethiopians. And they came up against Judah and invaded it and carried away all the possessions they found that belonged to the king's house, and also his sons and his wives, so that no son was left to him except Jehoaz, his youngest son. After all this, the Lord struck him in the bowels with an incurable disease. In the course of time, at the end of 2 years, his bowels came out because of the disease, and he died in great agony. His people made no fire in his honors like the fires made for his father. He was 32 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 8 years in Jerusalem, and he departed with no one's regret. They buried him in the city of David, but not in the tombs of the kings. Ooh. Tough. Tough. Chapter 39. So it's been 10 minutes. Now it's been 20 minutes. It was 12:19. Now it's 12:38. 51 minutes into the stream. Chapter 22. And the inhabitants of Jerusalem made Ahaziah his youngest son king in the place, for the band of men that came with the Arabians to the camp had killed all the older sons. So Ahaziah the son of Jehoram king of Judah reigned. And Ahaziah was 22 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 1 year in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Athaliah, the granddaughter of Omri. He also walked in the ways of the house of Ahab, for his mother was his counsel in doing wickedly. He did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, as the house of Ahab had done, for after the death of his father, they were his counselors to his undoing. He even followed their counsels and went with Jehoram the son of Ahab, king of Israel, to make war against Hazael, king of Syria, at Ramoth Gilead. And the Syrians wounded Joram, and he returned to be healed in Jezreel of the wounds that had received at Ramoth. When he fought against Hazael, king of Syria, and Ahaziah the son of Jehoram, king of Judah, went down to see Joram the son of Ahab in Jezreel, because he was wounded. But it was ordained by God that the downfall of Ahaziah would come about through his going to visit Jehoram. For when he came there, he went out with Jehoram to meet Jehu the son of Nimshi, whom the Lord had appointed to destroy the house of Ahab. And when Jehu was executed judgment on the house of Ahab, he met the prince of Judah and the sons of Ahaziah's brother, who attended Ahaziah, and he killed them. He searched for Ahaziah, and he was captured while hiding in Samaria, and he was brought to Jehu and put to death. They buried him, for they said, he is the grandson of Jehoshaphat, who sought the Lord with all his heart, and the house of Ahaziah had no one able to rule the kingdom. Now when Athaliah, the mother of Ahaziah, saw that her son was dead, she arose and destroyed all the royal family of the house of Judah. But Jehoshabeth, the daughter of the king, took Joash, the son of Ahaziah, and stole him away from among the king's sons, who were about to put him to death, and she put him and his nurse in a bedroom. Thus Jehoshabeth had daughters of Jehoshabeth, the daughter of King Jehoram, and the wife of Jehoiada, the priest, because she was a sister of Ahaziah, hid from him from Athaliah, so that she did not put him to death. And he remained with them 6 years, hidden in the house of God, while Athaliah reigned over the land. Jeez. But in the 7th year, Jehoiada took courage and entered into the covenant with the commanders of the hundreds, Azariah the son of Jehoram, Ishmael the son of Jehohanan, Azariah the son of Obed, Messiah the son of Adiah, and Elishaphat the son of Zikri. And they went about through Judah and gathered the Levites from all the cities of Judah and the heads of fathers' houses of Israel. And they came to Jerusalem, and all the assembly made a covenant with the king in the house of God. And Jehoiada said to them, Behold the king's son, let him reign as the Lord spoke concerning the son of David. This is the thing that you shall do for you, priests and Levites, who come off duty on the Sabbath, on the 3rd, 1/3 shall be gatekeepers, 1/3 shall be at king's house, and 1/3 at the gate of the fountain. And all the people shall be in the courts of the house of the Lord. Let no one enter the house of the Lord except the priests and the ministering Levites. They may enter, for they are holy, but all the people shall keep the charge of the Lord. The Levites shall surround the king, each with his weapons in his hands, and whoever enters the house shall be put to death. Be with the king when he comes in and he goes out. The Levites and all Judah did according to all that Jehoiada the priest commanded, and they brought his men who were to go off duty on the Sabbath with those who were to come on duty on the Sabbath. For Jehoiada the priest did not dismiss the divisions. And Jehoiada the priest gave to the captains of the spears and the large and the small shields that had been King David's, which were in the house of God. And he set all the people as guard for the king, every man with his weapon in his hands, from the south side of the house to the north side of the house, around the altar and the house. Then they brought out the king's son and put the crown on him and gave him the testimony, and they proclaimed him king, and Jehoiada and his sons anointed him, and they said, Long live the king. When Athaliah heard the noise of the people running and praising the king, she went into the house of the Lord to the people, and when she looked, there was the king standing by his pillars at the entrance, and the captains and the trumpeters beside the king, and all the people of the land rejoicing and blowing trumpets, and the singers with their musical instruments leading in the celebration. And Athaliah tore her clothes and cried, Treason, treason. Then Jehoiada the priest brought out the captains who were set over the army, saying to them, Bring her out between the ranks, and anyone who follows her is to be put to death with the sword. For the priest said, Do not put her to death in the house of the Lord. So they laid hands on her, and she went into the entrance of the house. She went into the entrance of the horse gate of the king's house, and they put her to death there. And Jehoiada made a covenant between himself and all the people and the king that they should be in the Lord's people. Then all the people went to the house of Baal and tore it down, its altars, its images. They broke in pieces. They killed Mattan, the priest of Baal, before the altars. And Jehoiada posted watchmen for the house of the Lord under the direction of the Levitical priests of the Levites, whom David had organized to be in charge of the house of the Lord, to offer burnt offerings to the Lord, as it is written in the law of Moses, with rejoicing, with singing, according to the order of David. He stationed the gatekeepers at the gate of the house of the Lord, so that no one should enter who was in any way unclean. And he took the captains of the nobles, the governors of the people, and all the people of the land, and they brought the king down from the house of the Lord, marching through the upper gate to the king's house. And they set the king on the royal throne. So all the people of the land rejoiced, and the city was quiet after Athaliah had been put to death with the sword. So we're going to take a little break here. There's just so much. And I still have like 12 or 20 more chapters here. I think I still have like 24 chapters to go. Oh my goodness. Take a little break. Take a little break. Let's get to chapter 30 and then we take like a good break. Need some food. Let's get to chapter 30 and then we take a good like 30-minute break. Chapter 24. Joash repairs the temple. Joash was 7 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 40 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Zibiah of Beersheba. And he reigned 40 years. His mother's name was Zibiah of Beersheba, and Joash did what was right in the eyes of the Lord all the days of Jehoiada, the priest. Jehoiada got for him 2 wives, and he had sons and daughters. After this, Joash decided to restore the house of the Lord, and he gathered the priests and the Levites, and said to them, "Go out to the cities of Judah, and gather from all Israel money to repair the house of your God from year to year, and to see that you act quickly." But the Levites did not act quickly, so the king summoned Jehoiada, the chiefs, and said to him, "Why have you not required the Levites to bring in from Judah and Jerusalem the tax levied by Moses, the servant of the Lord, and the congregation of Israel for the tent of testimony? For the sons of Athaliah, that wicked woman, had broken into the house of God, and had also used all the dedicated things of the house of the Lord for the Baals." So the king commanded, and they made a chest and set it outside the gate of the house of the Lord, and proclamation was made throughout Judah and Jerusalem to bring in for the Lord the tax that Moses, the servant of God, laid on Israel in the wilderness. And all the princes and all the people rejoiced and brought their tax and dropped it into the chest until they had finished. And whenever the chest was brought to the king's officers by the Levites, when they saw that there was much money in it, the king's secretary and the officers of the chief priests would come and empty the chest and take it and return to its place. Thus they did day after day and collected money in abundance. And the king of Jehoiada gave it to those who had charge of the work of the house of the Lord, and they hired masons and carpenters to restore the house of the Lord, and also workers in iron and bronze to repair the house of the Lord. So those who were engaged in the work labored, and the repair went forward in their hands, and they restored the house of the Lord to its proper condition and strengthened it. And when they had finished, they brought the rest of the money before the king and Jehoiada, and with it were made utensils of the house of the Lord, both for the service and for the burnt offerings, and dishes for incense and vessels of gold and silver. And they offered burnt offerings in the house of the Lord regularly all the days of Jehoiada. But Jehoiada grew old and full of days, and he died. He was 130 years old at his death, and they buried him in the city of David among the kings, because he had done good in Israel and toward God and his house. Now after the death of Jehoiada, the prince of Judah came and paid homage to the king. Then the king listened to them, and they abandoned the house of the Lord, and the God of their fathers, and served the Asherim and the idols. And wrath came upon Judah and Jerusalem for this guilt of theirs. Yet he sent prophets among them to bring them back to the Lord. These testified against them, but they would not pay attention. Then the Spirit of God clothed Zechariah the son of Jehoiada the priest, and he stood above the people and said to them, "Thus says the Lord, why do you break the commandments of the Lord so that you cannot prosper? Because you have forsaken the Lord, he has forsaken you." But they conspired against him, and by the command of the king they stoned him with stones in the court of the house of the Lord. Thus Joash the king did not remember the kindness that Jehoiada, Zechariah's father, had shown him, but killed his son. And when he was dying, he said, "May the Lord see and avenge." At the end of the year, the army of the Syrians came up against Joash. They came to Judah and Jerusalem and destroyed all the princes of the people from among the people, and sent all their spoil to the king Damascus. Though the army of the Syrians had come with few men, the Lord delivered into their hand a very great army, because Judah had forsaken the Lord, the God of their fathers. Thus they executed judgment on Joash. When they had departed from him, leaving him severely wounded, his servants conspired against him because of the blood of the son of Jehoiada, the priest, and killed him on his bed. So he died, and they buried him in the city of David, but they did not bury him in the tombs of the kings. Those who conspired against him were Zabad, the son of Shemith, the Ammonite, and Jehozabad, the son of Shimri, the Moabite. Accounts of his sons and of the many oracles against him and of the rebuilding of the house of God are written in the story of the book of the Kings and Amaziah his son reigned in his place. Amaziah, Azariah. Lots of names, lots of kings. Bro keeps editing my shift. Chapter 25. I mean, they're in the finals. They gotta win. Sheesh. Okay. All right, bet. Let's go here. Chapter 25. Amaziah was 25 years old when he began to reign. He reigned 29 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Jehoadan of Jerusalem, and he did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, yet not with his whole heart. And as soon as the royal power was firmly his, he killed his servants who had struck down the kings his father. But he did not put their children to death according to that which is to what is written in the law in the book of Moses, where the Lord commanded, fathers shall not die because of their children, nor children die because of their father, but each one shall die for their own sins. When Amaziah assembled the men of Judah and sent them before fathers' houses under commanders of thousands of hundreds of for all Judah and Benjamin, he mustered those 25 years old and upward, and found that they were 300,000 choice men, fit for war, able to handle spear and shield. He hired also 100,000 mighty men of valor from Israel for 100 talents of silver. But a man of God came to him and said, O king, do not let the army of Israel go with you, for the Lord is not with Israel, with all these Ephraimites, but go and act. Be strong for the battle. Why should you suppose that God will cast you down before the enemy? For God has power to help or to cast down. And Amaziah said to the man of God, but what shall we do about the 100 talents that I've given to the army of Israel? The man of God answered, the Lord is able to give you much more than this. Then Amaziah discharged the army that had come to him from Ephraim to go home again, and they became very angry with Judah and returned home in fierce anger. But Amaziah took courage and led his people and went out to the valley of Salt and struck down 10,000 men of Seir. The men of Judah captured another 10,000 alive and took them to the top of a rock and threw them down from... What the heck? The men of Judah captured another 10,000 alive and took them to the top of the rock and threw them down from the top of the rock, and they were all dashed to pieces. Man, that's brutal. 2 Chronicles 25 13. No. Yeah, verse 12. So they're just but the men of the army whom Amaziah sent back, not letting them go with him to battle, raided the cities of Judah from Samaria to Betharon, and struck down 3,000 people in them and took much spoil. After Amaziah came from striking down the Edomites, he brought the gods of the men of Seir and set them up as his gods, and worshipped them, making offerings to them. Therefore the Lord was angry with Amaziah and sent to him a prophet who said to him, why have you sought the gods of a people who did not deliver their own people from their hands? That's a valid claim there. That's a good question. But as he was speaking, the king said to him, have we made you royal counselor? Stop. Why should you be struck down? So the prophet stopped. but said, I know that God has determined to destroy you because you have done this and you have not listened to his counsel. Then Amaziah, king of Judah, took counsel. Amaziah, king of Israel, took counsel and sent to Joash, the son of Jehoaz, son of Jehu, king of Israel, saying, Come, let us look one another in the face. And Joash, the king of Israel, sent word to Amaziah, king of Judah, a thistle on Lebanon sent to a cedar on Lebanon, saying, Give your daughter to my son for a wife, and a wild beast of Lebanon pass by and trample down the thistle. You see, I have struck down Edom, and your heart has lifted you up in the boastfulness. But now stay at home. Why should you provoke trouble so that you fall, you and Judah with you? But Amaziah would not listen, for it was of God, in order that he might give them into the hand of their enemies, because they sought the gods of Edom. So Joash, king of Israel, went up, and he and Amaziah, king of Judah, faced one another in the battle of Beth Shemesh, which belongs to Judah. And Judah was defeated by Israel, and every man fled to his home. And Joash, king of Israel, captured Amaziah, king of Judah, the son of Joash, son of Ahaziah, at Beth Shemesh, and brought him to Jerusalem, and broke down the wall of Jerusalem for 400 cubits from Ephraim's gate to the corner gate. And he seized all the gold and silver and all the vessels that were found in the house of God, in the care of Odom Edom. He seized all the treasures of the king's house, also hostages, and he returned to Samaria. Amaziah, the son of Joash, king of Judah, lived 15 years after the death of Joash, the son of Jehoaz, the king of Israel. Now the rest of the deeds of Amaziah, from his first to last, are they not written in the book of the kings of Judah and Israel? From the time he turned away from the Lord, they made a conspiracy against him in Jerusalem, and he fled to Lamech. But they sent after him to Lamech and put him to death there. And they brought him upon horses, and he was buried with his fathers in the city of David. So they keep conspiring against him and killing people. There's a lot of conspiracy going on. All right. 12:59. It's 1 o'clock. It's been an hour and 12 minutes. Chapter 26. Chapter 26. And all the people of Judah took Uzziah, who was 16 years old, and made him king instead of his father Amaziah. He built Eloth and rebuilt it to Judah. He restored it to Judah, and after the king slept with his fathers, Uzziah was 16 years old and began to reign, and he reigned 52 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Jechaliah of Jerusalem, and he did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, according to all his fathers Amaziah had done. He set himself to seek God in the days of Zechariah, who instructed him in the fear of God, and as long as he sought the Lord, God made him prosper. He went out and made war against the Philistines and broke through the wall of Gath and the wall of Jebunah, the wall of Ashdod. He built cities in the territory of Ashdod and elsewhere among the Philistines. God helped him against the Philistines and against the Arabians who lived in Gerbal and against the Meunites. The Ammonites paid tribute to Uzziah, and his fame spread even to the border of Egypt, for he became very strong. Moreover, Uzziah built towers in Jerusalem at the corner of gate and at the valley gate and at the angel, and fortified them. And he built towers in the wilderness and cut out many cisterns, for he had large herds, both in the Shephelah and in the plain. And he had farmers and vine dressers in the hills and in the fertile lands, for he loved the soil. Moreover, Uzziah had an army of soldiers fit for war, in divisions according to the numbers in the muster made by Jael the secretary, and Messiah the officer, under the direction of Hananiah, one of the king's commanders. The whole number of the heads of their fathers' houses of mighty men of valor was 2,600. Under their command was an army of 307,500 who could make war with the mighty power to help the king against the enemy. And Uzziah prepared for all the army's shield, spears, helmets, coats of mails, bows, stones for slinging in Jerusalem. And he made machines and invented by skillful men to be on the towers and the corners to shoot arrows and great stones. And his fame spread war, for he was marvelously helped till he was strong. But when he was strong, he grew proud to this destruction, for he was unfaithful to the Lord his God, and entered the temple of the Lord to burn incense on the altar of incense. But Azariah the priest went in after him, and with 80 priests of the Lord who were men of valor, and they withstood King Uzziah and said to him, Is it not for you, Uzziah, to burn incense to the Lord, but for the priests, the sons of Aaron, who are consecrated to burn incense? Go out of the sanctuary, for you have done wrong, and it will bring you no honor from the Lord God. Then Uzziah was angry. Now he had a censer, he in his hands of burnt incense, and when he became angry with the priest, leprosy broke out on his forehead in the presence of the priests in the house of the Lord by the altar of incense. And Azariah the chief priest and all the priests looked at him, and behold, he was leprous in his forehead, and they rushed him out quickly, and he hurried himself to go out, because the Lord had struck him. And King Uzziah was leper in the days of his death, and being a leper, lived in a separate house after he was excluded from the house of the Lord. And Jotham his son was over the king's household, governing the people of the land. Now the rest of the acts of Uzziah, from first to last, Isaiah the prophet, the son of Amos, wrote. And Uzziah slept with his fathers, and they buried him with his fathers in the burial field that belonged to the kings, for they said, He is a leper. And Jotham his son reigned in his place. Jotham was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Jerushai, the daughter of Zadok, and he did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, according to all his fathers Uzziah had done, except he did not enter the temple of the Lord. But the people still followed corrupt practices. He built the upper gate of the house of the Lord and did much building on the wall of Ophel. Moreover, he built cities in the hill country of Judah and forts and towers on the wooded hills. He fought with the kings of the Ammonites and prevailed against them, and the Ammonites gave him that year 100 talents of silver and 10,000 quarts of wheat and 10,000 of barley. The Ammonites paid him the same amount in the second and the third. So Jotham became mighty because he ordered his way before the Lord his God. Now the rest of the acts of Jotham and all his wars and his ways, behold, they are written in the books of the kings of Israel and Judah. He was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. And Jotham slept with his fathers, and they buried him in the city of David, and Ahaz his son reigned in his place. Ahaz reigned in his place. Chapter 28. Ahaz was 25 years old when he began to reign. No, he was 20 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem, and he did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, as his fathers David had done. But he walked in the ways of the king of Israel. He even made metal images for the Baals. Wait, I'm reading this wrong again. Ahaz was 20 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem, and he did not do what was right in the eyes of the Lord, as his father David had done. But he walked in the ways of the kings of Israel. He even made metal images for the Baals, and he made offerings in the valley of the son of Hinnom, and burned his son as offerings according to the abomination of the nations, whom the Lord drove out before the people of Israel. And he sacrificed and made offerings on the high places and on the hills and on under every green tree. Every green tree. That's crazy. Therefore the Lord his God gave him into the hand of the king of Syria, who defeated him and took captive a great number of his people and brought them to Damascus. He was also given into the hand of the king of Israel, who struck him with great force. For Pekah the son of Remaliah killed 120,000 from Judah in one day, all of them men of valor, because they had forsaken the Lord, the God of their fathers. And Zechri, a mighty man of Ephraim, killed Messiah the king's son, and Archiam, the commander of the palace, and Elkanah, the next in authority to the king. The men of Israel took captive 200,000 of their relatives, women, sons, and daughters. They also took much spoil from them and brought the spoil to Samaria. But a prophet of the Lord was there, whose name was Oded. And he went out to meet the army that came to Samaria and said to them, Behold, because the Lord, the God of your father, was angry with Judah, he gave them into your hand, but you have killed them in a rage that has reached up to heaven. And now you intend to subjugate the people of Judah and Jerusalem, male and female, as your slaves. Have you not sins of your own against the Lord your God? Now hear me, and send back the captives from your relatives whom you have taken, for the fierce wrath of the Lord is upon you. Certain chiefs also of the men of Ephraim, Azariah the son of Johanan, Bechariah the son of Meshillemoth, Jezekiah the son of Shallum, and Amsa the son of Hadaliah, stood up against those who were coming from the war, and said to them, You shall not bring the captives in here, for you propose to bring upon us guilt against the Lord in addition to your their present sins and guilt. For our guilt is already great, and there is fierce wrath against Israel. So the army men left the captives and the spoil before the princes and all the assembly, and the men who had been mentioned by name rose and took the captives with the spoil. They clothed all who were naked among them. They clothed them, gave them sandals, provided them with food, drink, and anointed them, and carried them all the feeble among them on donkeys. They brought them to their kinsfolk at Jericho, the city of palm trees. Then they returned to Samaria. At the time, King Ahaz sent to the king of Assyria for help, for the Edomites had again invaded and defeated Judah and carried away captives, and the Philistines had made raids on the cities in the Shephelah and the Negev to Judah, and had taken Beth Shemesh, Ajalon, Gederoth, Soko with its villages, Timnah with its villages, Gizma with its villages, and they settled there. For the Lord humbled it Judah because of Ahaz king of Israel, for he had made Judah act sinfully and had been very unfaithful to the Lord. So Tiglath-Pileser, king of Syria, came against him and afflicted him instead of strengthening him. For Ahaz took a portion from the house of the Lord and the house of the king and of the princes, and gave tribute to the king of Syria, but it did not help him. In the times of his distress, he became yet more faithless to the Lord, this same king Ahaz, for he sacrificed to the gods of Damascus that had defeated him, and said, because the gods of the king of Syria helped them, I will sacrifice to them that they may help me. But they were the ruin of him and of all Israel. And Ahaz gathered together the vessels of the house of God, and cut in pieces the vessels of the house of God. And he shut up the doors of the houses of the Lord, and he made himself altars in every corner of Jerusalem. In every city of Judah he made high places to make offerings to other gods, provoking to anger the Lord, the God of his fathers. Now the rest of the acts and all his ways, first and last, behold, they are written in the books of the kings of Judah and Israel. And Ahaz slept with his fathers, and they buried him in the city of Jerusalem, for they did not bring him into the tombs of the kings of Israel. And Hezekiah his son reigned in his place. Hezekiah. Ooh. Hezekiah. Now we're in Hezekiah. I think it ends with Hezekiah, doesn't it? I think it does. Not much more pages, y'all. 2, 4, 5 more pages. And we are at 80 to an hour and 20. So this should take me 3 hours to read. Hezekiah began to reign when he was 25 years old, and he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Abijah, the daughter of Zechariah, and he did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, according to all that David his father had done. In the first year of his reign, in the first month, he opened the doors of the house of the Lord and repaired them. He brought in the priests and the Levites and assembled them in the square on the east, and he said to them, hear me, Levites, now consecrate yourselves and consecrate the house of the Lord, the God of your fathers, and carry out the filth from the holy place. For our fathers have been unfaithful and have done what was evil in the sight of the Lord our God. They have forsaken him and have turned away their face from the habitation of the Lord and turned their backs. They also shut the doors of the vestibule and put out the lamps, and have not burned incense or offered burnt offerings in the holy place to the Lord, to the God of Israel. Therefore, the wrath of the Lord came on Judah and Jerusalem, and he has made them an object of horror, of astonishment, and of hissing, as you see with your own eyes. For behold, our fathers have fallen by the sword. Our sons and our daughters and our wives are in captivity for this. Now it is in my heart to make a covenant with the Lord, the God of Israel, in order that his fierce anger may turn away from us. My sons, do not now be negligent, for the Lord has chosen you to stand in his presence, to minister to him, and to be his ministers, and make offerings to him. Then the Levites arose, Mahath the son of Amasai, Joel the son of Azariah, the sons of Kohathites, and of sons of Merari, Kish the sons of Abdi, Azariah the son of Jehalelel, and of the Gershonites, Joah the son of Zimmah, Eden the son of Joah, the sons of Elisaphan, Shimri, Jaul, the sons of Asaph, Zechariah, Mattaniah, and of the sons of Heman, Jehuel, Shammai, and of the sons of Jeduthun, Shemaiah and Uzziel. They gathered their brothers and consecrated them, and went in as the king had commanded. By the words of the Lord, to cleanse the house of the Lord, the priests went into the inner part of the house of the Lord to clean it, and they brought out all the uncleanness that they found in the temple of the Lord into the court of the house of the Lord. And the Levites took it and carried it out to the brook Kidron. They began to consecrate on the first day of the first month. On the 8th day of the month, they came to the vestibule of the Lord. Then for 8 days they consecrated the house of the Lord. And on the 16th day and first month they finished. Then they went into Hezekiah the king and said, we have cleansed all the house of the Lord, and altar of burnt offerings, and all the utensils, and the tables for the showbread, all its utensils, all the utensils that King Ahaz discarded in his reign when he was faithless. We are made ready and consecrated, and behold, they are before the altar of the Lord. Then Hezekiah the king arose early and gathered the officers, the officials of the city, and went up to the house of the Lord, and they brought 7 bulls, 7 rams, 7 lambs, 7 male goats for a sin offering for the kingdom and for the sanctuary and for Judah. And he commanded the priests, the sons of Aaron, to offer them on the altar of the Lord. So they slaughtered the bulls, the priests received the blood and threw it against the altar, and they slaughtered the rams, and their blood was thrown against the altar. They slaughtered the lambs, and their blood was thrown against the altar. Then the goats for the sin offerings were brought to the king and assembly, and they laid their hands on them. And the priests slaughtered them and made a sin offering with their blood on the altar to make atonement for all Israel. For the king commanded that the burnt offering and the sin offering should be made for all Israel. And he stationed the Levites in the house of the Lord with the cymbals, harps, lyres, according to the commandment of David and of Gad the king's seer and of Nathan the prophet, for the commandment was from the Lord through his prophets. The Levites stood with the instruments of David, and the priests with the trumpets. Then Hezekiah commanded that the burnt offerings be offered on the altar. And when the burnt offerings began, the song to the Lord began also, and the trumpets accompanied by the instruments of David, king of Israel. The whole assembly worshipped, and the singers sang, and the trumpeters sounded, and all his continued until the burnt offering was finished. When the offering was finished, the king and all who were present with him bowed themselves in worship. And Hezekiah the king and the officers commanded the Levites to sing, praise to the Lord with the words of the Lord and of Asaph the seer. Praise the word of David. And Hezekiah king and the officials command the Levites to sing praise to the Lord with the words of David and of Asaph the seer. And they sung praises with gladness, and they bowed down and worshipped. Then Hezekiah said, you have now consecrated yourself to the Lord. Come near, bring sacrifices and thank offerings to the house of the Lord. And the assembly brought sacrifices and thanks offerings, and all were of a willing heart brought burnt offerings. The number of the burnt offerings that the assembly brought was 700 bulls, 70 bulls, 100 rams, 200 lambs. All these were for burnt offerings to the Lord, and the consecrated offerings were 600 bulls and 3,000 sheep. But the priests were too few and could not flay on the burnt offerings. So until other priests had consecrated themselves, their brothers, the Levites, helped them until the work was finished. For the Levites were more upright in heart than the priests in the consecrating themselves. Beside the great number of burnt offerings, there was the fat of the peace offerings, and there were the drink offerings for the burnt offerings. Thus the service of the house of the Lord was restored. And Hezekiah and all the people rejoiced, because God had provided for the people, for the things came about suddenly. So we got to chapter 30, and I'm going to take a break. Take a good break. 1:30 we'll start back up. 1:30 we'll start back up. We'll start back up. Take a little break here.
The Q collar gives me an extra added layer of protection.
Tony Pollard. Apple cobbler. Apple cobbler. I'm eating an apple cobbler though. I need an apple cobbler. Apple cobbler. No, this is a peach. Peach cobbler. Peach. Bro, you just took out the whole village? All right, we're late. We're late. We're late. We're late. We're late. We're back. 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 132. 132. Let's finish the last stretch. The last 7 books or so. 132. Let's continue here. All right. So we ate an peach cobbler, which was really good from my work. Peach cobbler. But let's get to work here. Let's get to work here. Let's get to work here. Right. So Hezekiah sent all Israel and Judah and wrote letters also to Ephraim and Manasseh that they should come to the house of the Lord at Jerusalem to keep the Passover to the Lord, the God of Israel. For the king and his princes and all the assembly in Jerusalem had taken counsel to keep the Passover in the 2nd month, for they could not keep it at the time because the priests had not consecrated themselves in sufficient number, nor had the people assembled in Jerusalem. And the plan seemed right to the king and all the assembly, so they decreed to make a proclamation throughout all Israel from Beersheba to Dan that the people should come and keep the Passover to the Lord, the God of Israel, at Jerusalem. For they had not kept it often as prescribed. So the couriers went throughout all Israel and Judah with letters from the king and his princes as the king had commanded, saying, O people of Israel, return to the Lord, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, that he may turn again to the remnant of you who have escaped from the hand of the kings of Assyria. Do not be like your fathers and your brothers who were who were faithless to the Lord, God of their fathers, so that he made them a desolation, as you see. Do not now be stiff-necked as your fathers were, but yield yourself to the Lord and come to the sanctuary which he has consecrated forever, and serve the Lord your God, that his fierce anger may turn away from you. For if you return to the Lord, your brothers and your children will find a compassion with their captors, and return to his land, for the Lord your God is gracious and merciful, and will not turn away his face from you if you return to him. So the courtiers went from city to city throughout the country of Ephraim and Manasseh, and as far as Zebulun, but they laughed them to scorn and mocked them. However, some men of Asher and Manasseh and of Zebulun humbled themselves and came to Jerusalem. The hand of God was also on Judah, to give them one heart to do what the king and the princes commanded by the word of the Lord. And many people came together in Jerusalem to keep the feast of the unleavened bread in the 2nd month, a very great assembly. They set to work and removed the altars that were in Jerusalem and all the altars from burning incense. They took away and threw into the brook Kidron. And they slaughtered the Passover lamb on the 14th day of the 2nd month. And the priests and the Levites were ashamed, so that they consecrated themselves and brought burnt offerings into the house of the Lord. They took their accustomed post according to the law of Moses, the man of God. The priests threw the blood that they received from the hand of the Levites, for there were many in the assembly who had not consecrated themselves. Therefore the Levites had to slaughter the Passover lamb for everyone who was not clean, to consecrate it to the Lord. For a majority of the people, many of them from Ephraim, Manasseh, Issachar, Zebulun, had not cleansed themselves. Yet they ate the Passover otherwise than as they prescribed. For Hezekiah had prayed for them, saying, May the good Lord pardon everyone who sets his heart to seek God, the Lord, the God of his fathers, even though not according to the sanctuary's rule of cleanness. And the Lord heard Hezekiah and healed the people. And the people of Israel who were present at Jerusalem kept the feast of unleavened bread 7 days with great gladness. And the Levites and the priests praised the Lord day by day, singing with all their might to the Lord. And Hezekiah spoke encouragingly to all the Levites who showed good skill in the service of the Lord. So they ate the food of the festival for 7 days, sacrificing peace offerings and giving thanks to the Lord, the God of their fathers. Then the whole assembly agreed together to keep the feast for another 7 days. So they kept it for another 7 days with the gladness. For Hezekiah king of Judah gave the assembly 1,000 bulls, 7,000 sheep for offerings, and the princes gave the assembly 1,000 bulls and 10,000 sheep. And the priests consecrated themselves in great numbers, the whole assembly of Judah, and the priests and the Levites, and the whole assembly that came out of Israel, and the sojourners who came out of the land of Israel, and the sojourners who lived in Judah rejoiced. So there was great joy in Jerusalem, for since the time of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel, there had been nothing like this in Jerusalem. Then the priests and the Levites arose and blessed the people, and their voice was heard, and their prayer came to his holy habitation in heaven. Chapter 31. Now when all this was finished, all Israel who were present went out to the cities of Judah and broke in pieces the pillars and cut down the Asherim and broke down the high places and the altars throughout all Judah and Benjamin and Ephraim and Manasseh, until they had destroyed them all. Then all the people of Israel returned to all their cities, every man to his possessions. And Hezekiah appointed then Hezekiah appointed the divisions of the priests and of the Levites, and division by division, each according to his service, the priests and the Levites, for burnt offerings and peace offerings, to minister in the gates of the camp of the Lord, and to give thanks and praise. The contribution of the king from his own possession was for the burnt offerings of morning and evening, and the burnt offerings for the Sabbath, the new moons, and the appointed feasts, as it is written in the law of Moses. And he commanded the people who lived in Jerusalem to give the portion due to the priests and the Levites, that they might give themselves to the law of the Lord. As soon as the command was spread abroad, the people of Israel gave in abundance the first fruits of grain, wine, oil, honey, and of all the produce of the field, and they brought in abundance the tithe of everything. And the people of Israel and Judah who lived in the cities of Judah also brought in the tithe of cattle and sheep, and the tithe of the dedicated things that had been dedicated to the Lord their God, and laid them in heaps. In the 3rd month they began to pile up the heaps, and finished them in the 7th month. When Hezekiah and the prince came and saw the heaps, they blessed the Lord and his people Israel. And Hezekiah questioned the priests and the Levites about the heaps. Azariah, the chief priest, who was of the house of Zadok, answered him, "Since they began to bring their contributions into the house of the Lord, we have eaten and had enough and have plenty left. For the Lord has blessed his people, so that we have this large amount left." Then Hezekiah commanded them to prepare chambers in the house of the Lord, and they prepared it. And they faithfully brought in the contributions, the tithes, and the dedicated things. The chief officer in charge of them was Conaniah the Levite, with Shimi, his brother, as second, while Jahiel, Azaziah, Nahath, Ashiel, Jeremoth, Jozabad, Eliel, Ismachakai, Mahath, and Benaniah were overseers, assisting Conaniah and Shamiel his brother, by the appointed of Hezekiah the king, and Azariah the chief officer of the house of God, and Kor the son of Imnah the Levite, keeper of the east gate, was over the free will offerings to God, to apportion the contribution reserved for the Lord and the most holy things. Eden, Miniamin, Jeshua, Shemaiah, Amariah, Shechaniah were faithful, assisting him in the cities of the priests, to distribute the portions to their brothers, old and young alike by divisions, except those enrolled by genealogies, male from 3 years old and upward, all who entered the house of the Lord as the duty of each day required, for their service according to the offices by their divisions. The enrollment of the priests was according to their fathers' houses. That of the Levites from 20 years old and upward was according to their offices by their divisions. They were enrolled with all their little children, their wives, their sons, their daughters, the whole assembly, for they were faithful in keeping themselves holy. And for the sons of Aaron, the priests who were in the fields of common land belonging to their cities, there were men in the several cities who were designated by name to distribute portions to every male among the priests and to everyone among the Levites who was enrolled. Thus Hezekiah did throughout all Judah, and he did what was good and right and faithful before the Lord his God, in every work that he undertook in the service of the house of God, and in accordance with the law and the commandments, seeking his God, he did with all his heart, and prospered. He prospered. Chapter 32. Oh my goodness. After these things, these acts of faithfulness, Sennacherib, king of Assyria, came in and invaded Judah and encamped against the fortified cities, thinking to win them for himself. And when Hezekiah saw that Sennacherib had come and intended to fight against Jerusalem, he planned with his officers and his mighty men to stop the waters of the spring that were outside the city, and they helped him. A great many people were gathered, and they stopped all the springs and the brook that flowed through the land, saying, "Why should the kings of Assyria come and find much water?" He set to work resolutely and built up all the wall that was broken down, and raised towers upon it. And outside it he built another wall, and he strengthened the Milo in the city of David. He also made weapons and shields in abundance, and he set combat commanders over the people and gathered them together to him in the square at the gate of the city, and spoke encouragingly to them, saying, "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or dismayed before the king of Assyria and all the horde that is with him, for there are more with us than with them. With him is an army of flesh, but with us is the Lord our God, to help us and to fight our battles. And the people took confidence from the words of Hezekiah, king of Judah. After this, Sennacherib, king of Assyria, who was besieging Lamech with all his forces, sent his servants to Jerusalem to Hezekiah, king of Judah, and to all the people of Judah who were in Jerusalem, saying, Thus says Sennacherib, king of Assyria, on what are you trusting, that you endure the siege in Jerusalem? Is not Hezekiah misleading you, that he may give you over to die by famine and by thirst, when he tells you, the Lord our God will deliver us from the hand of the king of Assyria? Has not this same Hezekiah taken away his high places and altars, and commanded Judah and Jerusalem, Be one altar you shall worship, before one altar you shall worship, on it you shall burn your off sacrifice? Do you not know that I and my fathers have done to all the people of other lands? Were the gods of the nations of those lands at all able to deliver the lands out of my hand? Who among all the gods of those nations that my father devoted to destruction was able to deliver his people from my hand? That your God should be able to deliver you from my hand? Now therefore, do not let Hezekiah deceive you or mislead you in his fashion. Do not believe him. For no God of any nation or kingdom has been able to deliver his people from my hand or from the hand of my fathers. How much less will your God deliver you out of my hand? And his servants said still more against the Lord and against his servant Hezekiah. And he wrote letters to cast contempt on the Lord, the God of Israel, to speak against him, saying, Like the gods of the nations of the land who have not delivered the people from my hand, so the God of Hezekiah will not deliver his people from my hand. And they shouted with a loud voice in the language of Judah to the people of Israel, to the people of Jerusalem who were on the walls, to frighten and terrify them, in order that they might take the city. And they spoke of the God of Jerusalem as they spoke of the gods of the people of the earth, which are the works of men's hand. Then Hezekiah the king and Isaiah the prophet, the son of Amoz, prayed because of this, and cried to heaven. The Lord sent an angel who cut off all the mighty warriors and commanders and officers in the camp of the king of Assyria. So they returned with shame of face to his own. Land. And when he came into the house of his God, some of his own sons struck him down there with the sword. So the Lord saved Hezekiah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem from the hand of Sennacherib, king of Assyria, and from the hand of all his enemies. And he provided for them on every side. And many brought gifts to the Lord to Jerusalem, and precious things to Hezekiah, king of Judah, so that he was exalted in the sight of all nations from that time onward. In those days Hezekiah became sick and was at the point of death, and he prayed to the Lord, and he answered him and gave him a sign. But Hezekiah did not make return according to the benefit done to him, for his heart was proud. Therefore wrath came upon him in Judah and Jerusalem. But Hezekiah humbled himself for the pride of his heart, both he and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, so that the wrath of the Lord did not come upon them in the days of Hezekiah. And Hezekiah had very great riches and honor. He made for himself treasuries for silver, for gold, for precious stones, for spices, for shields, for all kinds of costly vessels, storehouses also for the yield of grains, wines, oil, stalls for all kinds of cattle, sheepfolds. He likewise provided cities for himself, and folks and herds in abundance, for God had given him every very great possessions. The same Hezekiah closed the upper outlet of the waters of Gihon, and directed them down to the west side of the city of David. And Hezekiah prospered in all his works. Hezekiah. And so in the matter of the envoys of the princes of Babylon, who had been sent to him and inquire about the sign that had been done in the land, God led him to himself in order to test him and to know all that was in his heart. Now the rest of the acts of Hezekiah and his good deeds, behold, they are written in the visions of Isaiah the prophet, the son of Amoz, in the book of the kings of Judah and Israel. And Hezekiah slept with his fathers, and they buried him in the upper part of the tombs of his son of David. And all Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem did him honor at his death, and Manasseh his son reigned in his place. Manasseh was 12 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 55 years in Jerusalem. He did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to the abomination of the nation whom the Lord drove out before the people of Israel, For he rebuilt the high places that his father Hezekiah had broken down, and he erected altars to the Baals and made Ashereth worship all the host of the heavens and serve them. And he built altars in the house of the Lord, of which the Lord said, In Jerusalem shall my name be forever. And he built altars for all the hosts of heaven in the two courts of the house of the Lord. And he burned his sons and he burned his sons as an offering in the valley of the sons of Hinnom, and used fortune tellings, omens, and sorcery, and dealt with Medians and with necromancers. He did much evil in the sight of the Lord, provoking him to anger, and he carved images of idol that he had made, he set in the house of God, of which God said to David and to Solomon his son, In this house and in Jerusalem, which I have chosen out of all the tribes of Israel, I will put my name forever, and I will no more remove the foot of Israel from the land that I appointed for your fathers, if only they will be careful to do all that I've commanded them, all the laws and statutes and rules given through Moses. Manasseh led Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem astray, to do more evil than the nations whom the Lord destroyed before the people of Israel. The Lord spoke to Manasseh and to his people, but the Lord spoke to Manasseh and to his people, but they paid no attention. Therefore the Lord brought upon them the commanders of the army of the king of Syria, who captured Manasseh with hooks and bound him with chains of bronze and brought him to Babylon. And when he was in distress, he entreated the favor of the Lord his God and humbled himself greatly before the God of his father. He prayed to him, and God was moved by his entreaty and heard his plea and brought him again to Jerusalem into his kingdom. Then Manasseh knew that the Lord was God. Afterward, he built an outer wall for the city of David, west of Gihon, all the valleys, and for the entrance into the fish gate, and carried it around Ophel, and raised it to a very great height. He also put commanders of the army in all fortified cities in Judah, and he took away the foreign gods and the idols from the house of the Lord, and all the altars that he had built on the mountain of the house of the Lord in Jerusalem, he threw them outside of the city. He also restored the altar of the Lord and offered on it sacrifices of peace offerings and of thanksgiving, and he commanded Judah to serve the Lord, the God of Israel. Nevertheless, the people still sacrificed at the high places, but only to the Lord their God. Now the rest of the acts of Manasseh and his prayers to his God, and the words of the seer who spoke to him in the name of the Lord, the God of Israel, behold, they are written. Behold, they are in the Chronicles of the king of Israel, and his prayer and how God was moved by his entreaty, and all his sins and faithfulness and faithlessness, and the sites on which he built high places and set up the Asherim and the images before he humbled himself. Behold, they are written in the Chronicles of the seer. So Manasseh slept with his fathers, and they buried him in his house. And Amon, his son, reigned in his place. Amon was 22 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 2 years in Jerusalem. And he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, as Manasseh his father had done. Amon sacrificed to all the images that Manasseh his father had made, and served them. And he did not humble himself before the Lord, as Manasseh his father had humbled himself. But this Amon incurred guilt more and more, and his servants conspired against him and put him to death in his house. But the people of the land struck down all those who had conspired against King Amon, and the people of the land made Josiah his son king in his place. I think it ends with Josiah. No way. It does end with Josiah. The First Chronicles is going to end with Josiah. Sheesh. So it's been 2 hours, 124 minutes. Josiah reigns in Judah. Chapter 34 is 2 Chronicles. It's 151 right now. If we can finish this book at 2, that would be great. Josiah was 8 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 31 years in Jerusalem. And he did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, and walked in the ways of David his father, and he did not turn aside to the right hand or to the left. For in the 8th year of his reign, while he was yet a boy, he began to seek the God of his father David. In the 12th year, he began to purge Judah and Jerusalem of the high places, the Asherim, and carved and the metal images. And they chopped down the altars of the Baals in his presence, and cut down the incense altars that stood above them. And he broke in pieces the Asherim and the carved and the metal images, and he made dust of them, and scattered it over the graves of those who had sacrificed to them. He also burned the bones of the priests on their altars, and cleansed Judah and Jerusalem. And in the cities of Manasseh, Ephraim, and Simeon, and as far as Naphtali, in their ruins all around, he broke down the altars and beat the Asherim and the images into powder, and cut down all the incense altars throughout all the land of Israel. Then he returned to Jerusalem. So Josiah is cleaning cleansing out the whole providence, the whole land, because they have acted foolishly. The book of the law found. I remember reading this. Now in the 18th year of his reign, when he had cleansed the land and the house, he sent Shaphan the son of Azlah and Messiah the governor of the city and Joah the son of Jehoaz the recorder to repair the house of the Lord his God. They came to Hilkiah the high priest and gave him the money that had been brought into the house of God, which the Levites, the keepers of the threshold, had collected from Manasseh and Ephraim, from all the remnant of Israel, and from all Judah and Benjamin, and from the inhabitants of Jerusalem. And they gave it to the workmen who were working in the house of the Lord. And the workmen who were working in the house of the Lord gave it for repairing and restoring the house. They gave it to the carpenters and builders to buy quarried stone and timber for binders and beams for the buildings that the kings of Judah had let go to ruin. And the men did the work faithfully. Over them were set Jahath and Obadiah, the Levites of the sons of Merari, and Zechariah and Meshullam, the sons of the Kohathites, to have oversight. The Levites, all who were skillful with instruments of music, were over the burden bearers and directed all who did work in every kind of service. And since some of the Levites were scribes and officers and gatekeepers. While they were bringing out the money that had been brought into the house of the Lord, Hilkiah the priest found the book of the law of the Lord given through Moses. Then Hilkiah, let me write this thing down. 2 Chronicles 34:14. So Hilkiah the priest found the lost book of the law of the Lord given through Moses. Verse 15. Then Hilkiah answered and said to Shaphan the secretary, I have found the book of the law in the house of the Lord. And Hilkiah gave the book to Shaphan, and Shaphan brought the book to the king and further report to the king. All that was committed to your servants they are doing. They have emptied out the money that was found in the house of the Lord and have given it into the hand of the overseers and the workmen. Then Shaphan the secretary told the king, Hilkiah the priest has given me a book. And Shaphan read from it before the king. And when the king heard the words of the law, he tore his clothes. And the king commanded Hilkiah, Ahikam the son of Shaphan, Abdon the son of Micah, Shaphan the secretary, and Asaiah the king's servant, saying, Go inquire of the Lord for me, for those who are left in Israel and in Judah, concerning the words of this book that has been found. For great is the wrath of the Lord that is poured out on us, because our fathers have not kept the word of the Lord. They have not kept the word of the Lord to do according to all that is written in the book. So Hilkiah and those whom the king had sent went to Huldah the prophetess, the wife of Shallum the son of Tokath, son of Hasra, keeper of the wardrobe. Now she lived in Jerusalem in the second quarter, and spoke to her to that effect. And she said to them, Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, tell the man who sent you to me. Thus says the Lord, behold, I will bring disaster upon this place and upon its inhabitants. All the curses that are written in the book that was read before the king of Judah, because they have forsaken me and have made offerings unto other gods, that they might provoke me to anger with all the works of their hands. Therefore my wrath will be poured out on this place and will not be quenched. But to the king of Judah who sent you to inquire of the Lord, thus shall you say to him, Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, regarding the words that you have heard, because your heart was tender and you humbled yourself before God when you heard these words against this place and its inhabitants, and you have humbled yourself before me and have torn your clothes and wept before me, I have also heard you, declares the Lord. Behold, I will gather you to your fathers. You will be gathered to your grave. You will be gathered to your grave in peace, and your eyes shall not see all the disaster that I will bring upon this people and its inhabitants. And they brought back word to the king. Then the king sent and gathered together all the elders of Judah and Jerusalem. And the king went up to the house of the Lord with all the men of Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and the priests and the Levites, and all the people, both great and small. And he read in their hearing all the words of the book of the covenant that had been found in the house of the Lord. And the king stood in his place and made a covenant before the Lord to walk after the Lord and to keep his commandments and his testimonies and his statutes with all his heart and all his soul, to perform the words of the covenant that were written in this book. Then he made all who were present in Jerusalem and in Benjamin join in it. And the inhabitants of Jerusalem did according to the covenant of God, the God of their fathers. Josiah took away all the abominations from all the territory that belonged to the people of Israel, and made all who were present in Israel serve the Lord their God. All his days they did not turn away from following the Lord, the God of their fathers. Chapter 35. Josiah kept the Passover to the Lord in Jerusalem, and they slaughtered the Passover lamb on the 14th day of the first month. He appointed the priests to their offices and encouraged them in the service of the house of the Lord. And he said to the Levites who taught Israel who were holy to the Lord, put the holy ark in the house that Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel, built. You need to carry it on your soldiers. You need not carry it on your shoulders. Now serve the Lord your God with his people Israel. Prepare yourself according to your father's houses, by your divisions, as prescribed in the writing of David, king of Israel, and the document of Solomon his son, and stand in the holy place according to the groupings of the fathers' houses of your brothers, the lay people, and according to the division of the Levites by father's household, and slaughter the Passover, and consecrate yourselves, and prepare for your brothers to do according to the word of the Lord by Moses. Then Josiah contributed to the lay people as Passover overlays for all who were present. Lambs, young goats from the flock to the number of 3,000 bulls. These were from the king's possession, and his officers contributed willingly to the people, to the priests and to the Levites. Hilkiah, Zechariah, Jahiel, the chief officers of the house of God, gave to the priests for the Passover offerings 2,600 Passover lambs, 300 bulls. Conaniah also, and Shemaiah, and Nathaniel his brothers, and Hashabai, and Jael, Jozabed, the chief of the Levites, gave to the Levites for the Passover offerings 5,000 lambs and young goats and 500 bulls. When the service had been prepared, the priests stood in their place, and the Levites in their divisions, according to the king's command, and they slaughtered the Passover lamb, and the priests threw the blood that they received from them, while the Levites flayed the sacrifices. And they set aside the burnt offerings that they might distribute them according to the groupings of the fathers' houses of the lay people, to offer to the Lord, as it is written in the book of Moses. And so they did with the bulls, and they roasted the Passover lamb with fire according to the rule, and they boiled the holy offerings in pots and cauldrons and pans, and carried them quickly to all the lay people. And afterward they prepared for themselves and for the priests, because the priests, the son of Aaron, were offering the burnt offerings and the fat parts until night. So the Levites prepared for themselves and for the priests, the sons of Aaron. The singers, the sons of Asaph, were in their place, according to the command of David and Asaph, and Heman, and Jeduthun, the king's seer. And the gatekeepers were at each gate. They did not need to depart from their service, for their brothers the Levites prepared for them. So all the service of the Lord was prepared that day, to keep the Passover and to offer burnt offerings on the altar of the Lord, according to the command of King Josiah. And the people of Israel who were present kept the Passover. Kept the Passover at that time, the feast of unleavened bread, 7 days. No Passover like it had been kept in Israel since the days of Samuel the prophet. That was a long time ago. None of the kings of Israel had kept such a Passover as it was kept by Josiah, and the priests and the Levites and all Judah and Israel who were present, and the inhabitants of Jerusalem. In the 18th year of the reign of King Josiah, this Passover was kept. So Samuel was a long time ago, guys. That's a lot of books in between. After all this, that's a lot of books and a lot of people and kings. After all this, when Josiah had prepared the temple, Necho, king of Egypt, went up to fight at Carchemish on the Euphrates, and Josiah went out to meet him. But he sent envoys to him, saying, "What have we to do with each other, king of Judah? I am not coming against you this day, but against the house with which I am at war, and God has commanded me to hurry. Cease opposing God, who is with me, lest he destroy you." Nevertheless, Josiah did not turn away from him, but disguised himself in order to fight with him. He did not listen to the words of Necho from the mouth of God, but came to fight in the plain of Megiddo. And the archers shot King Josiah, and the king said to his servant, "Take me away, for I am badly wounded." So his servants took him out of the chariot and carried him into the second chariot and brought him into Jerusalem, and he died and was buried in the tombs of the fathers. All Judah and Jerusalem mourned for Josiah. Jeremiah also uttered a lament for Josiah, and all the singing men and singing women have spoken of Josiah in their laments to this day. They made these rules and they made these a rule in Israel. Behold, they are written in the laments. Now the rest of the acts of Josiah and his good deeds according to what is written in the law of the Lord, and his acts first and last, behold, they are written in the book of the kings of Israel and Judah. Chapter 36, the book of the land, the people, Judah's decline. Chapter 36, 2 Chronicles 36. The people of the land took Jehoaz, the son of Josiah, and made him king in his father's place in Jerusalem. Jehoaz was 23 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 3 months in Jerusalem. Then the king of Egypt deposed him in Jerusalem and laid on the land a tribute of 100 talents of silver and a talent of gold. And the king of Egypt made Eliakim his brother king over Judah and Jerusalem, and changed his name to Jehoiakim. But Necho took Jehoaz his brother and carried him to Egypt. Jehoiakim was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. He did what was evil in the sight of the Lord his God. Against him came up Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, and bound him in chains to take him to Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar also carried part of the vessels of the house of the Lord to Babylon and put them in the palace in Babylon. Now the rest of the acts of Jehoiakim and the abominations that he did, and what was found against him, behold, they are written in the book of the kings of Israel and Judah. And Jehoiachin, his son, reigned in his place. Jehoiachin was 18 years old when he began to reign. And he reigned 3 months and 10 days in Jerusalem. He did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. In the spring of the year, King Nebuchadnezzar sent and brought him to Babylon with the previous vessels of the house of the Lord, and made his brother Zedekiah king over Judah and Jerusalem. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. He did what was evil in the sight of the Lord his God. He did not humble himself before Jeremiah the prophet, who spoke from the mouth of the Lord. He also rebelled against King Nebuchadnezzar, who had made him swear by God. He stiffened his neck and hardened his heart against turning to the Lord, the God of Israel. All the officers of the priests and the people likewise were exceedingly unfaithful, following all the abominations of the nations, and they polluted the house of the Lord that he had made holy in Jerusalem. The Lord, the God of their fathers, sent persistently to them by his messengers, because he had compassion on his people and on his dwelling place. But they kept mocking the messengers of God, despising his word and scoffing at his prophets, until the wrath of the Lord arose against his people, until there was no remedy. Verse 17. Therefore he brought up against them the king of the Chaldeans, who killed their young men with the sword in the house of their sanctuary, and had no compassion on young man, nor virgin, or old man or age. He gave them all into his hands, and all the vessels of the house of God, great and small, and the treasuries of the house of the Lord, and the treasuries of the kings of his princes. All these he brought to Babylon. And they burned the house of God, and broke down the wall of Jerusalem, and burned all its palaces with fire, and destroyed all its precious vessels. He took into exile in Babylon those who had escaped from the sword, and they became servants to him and to his sons until the establishment of the king of Persia, to fulfill the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah, until the land had enjoyed its Sabbath. All the days that it lay desolate, it kept Sabbath, to fulfill 70 years. Now, in the first year of Cyrus king of Persia, that the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah might be fulfilled, the Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus king of Persia, so that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom, and also put it in writings. Thus says Cyrus king of Persia, the Lord, the God of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and he has charged me to build him a house at Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Whoever is among you of all this people, may the Lord his God be with you. Let him go up. And that's it, guys. 2:06. Hey, I thought I was going to get down at 3. 2:06, great timing, and we just finished 2 Chronicles. This is crazy. We just finished 2 Chronicles. 1 Chronicles, absolutely tough. 2 Chronicles, I felt like I was repeating myself. I really felt like I was repeating myself, because I already read all these stories in Kings, right? So I was just repeating myself, rereading what I read in Kings. But guys, like, we finished Chronicles, 1st and 2nd. Let's freaking go, guys. This feels good. This feels absolutely good. This is awesome, guys. The journey continues. The streak continues. So, let's go. Day 4 of June. Check. And guys, like, make sure y'all tune in for tomorrow. Tune in for tomorrow, y'all. Tune in for tomorrow because we got different books now. We're going to start firing at different books here. Finally, we're going to be firing at different books. Yes, sir. All right, guys, I appreciate y'all for tuning in. About an hour and 40. It says 140 minutes, which comes to, what would that be? An hour and 20? An hour and 20 minutes. It's not too bad. 2 hours and 20 minutes. 2 hours and 20 minutes. Because 60 plus 60 is 120. That's 2 hours. And then that's 20. Okay. So 2 hours and 20 minutes. The video is kind of long. But guys, like, I really finished this reading like day 4 of June. I really thought it was going to take me a longer because I really thought that Second Chronicles was going to be super repetitive and super hard. A bunch of names again. But guys, we got all that name spelling, name pronouncing. All of that is in First Chronicles 1 to 8 if you guys want to torture yourself, right? But we just finished Second Chronicles, and finally we get into different books because I feel like I've been reading about kings and how they were good and bad and what they did. I feel like I've been reading about them for so long because First Kings, Second Kings, First Chronicles, Second Chronicles, they're all talking about the process and what king ruled and the time period and what happened. So finally maybe we'll be done reading about kings for a while. I need to break up with kings because it's very repetitive because all the stories are kind of similar too. Oh my goodness, this feels good. This feels good, man. Second Chronicles, check. Let's go. Second Chronicles, check. All right, guys, so let me stop the video and stop talking. But guys, yeah, thank you for tuning in and watching this live stream. Make sure y'all like, subscribe, share. Hey, we still got a lot to read here. We're only on day 4 in June, right? We still got about 2 weeks. We got about 2 weeks left, right? We got about exactly 2 weeks from today. 2 weeks from today, we are done with the challenge. Oh my goodness, that's crazy. What the heck? It's already been 2 weeks and 3 days. Wow. Because we started on the 19th, guys. We started on May 19th. And it's already June 4th. Time's been flying. I've been reading a lot. And it feels like the time is jumping too. So yeah, guys, I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Make sure you guys don't miss tomorrow because we got different books. Don't miss the next book that's coming up. Don't miss the next book that's coming up. So that's it. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, and it feels good to finally finish all the talking about kings, man, and all the names, hopefully. But guys, so that is it. Thank you guys for tuning in for the challenge, and I will catch you guys in the next video tomorrow.